Everybody, if you're not doing AI every day, you're missing out. And so for me, I'm really working on, okay, what does the next generation systems, really do for us? I think they make us more human.
Welcome to Scale Like a CEO, the podcast where we dive deep into the strategies, challenges, and insights of successful business leaders. Each episode, we bring you authentic conversations with CEOs and executives who share their real world experiences in scaling organizations. Whether you're a current leader or aspiring to grow in your career, you'll find valuable lessons and practical wisdom in every discussion. Today, we're joined by Rich Cannon, a seasoned executive with fascinating insights into leadership and team building. Let's dive in.
Rich, thank you so much for joining me on Scale Like a CEO. Just to get us started, if you can give us a view in your business.
Yeah, great. I just came off of a role as CEO of Rally. You can see it at www.getrally.com, a change experience platform where I worked with business experts who mostly work with executive teams. And the big question was, how do you expand what is done for the senior teams out to the field where you actually impact the customer and the customer experience? And so that was my last role. Prior to that, immediately prior to that, I was the senior go-to-market lead for the One Commercial Partner group at Microsoft, being a technology executive. And immediately prior to that, I did an e-commerce website development startup, which ran for a number of years. Many different experiences.
Yeah, great. I'm excited to get some of that experience into the conversation. What do you see as the biggest problem in your industry, and how are you solving that?
Well, I think because of all different experiences with venture capitalists and executives and the partner community of Microsoft, I think it's leadership and self-deception. That particular book has sold millions of copies, but people really are disconnected at the senior levels of many of these companies, which really impacts people's ability to change together. And in a world where AI is influencing everything and technology now affects every role, not just the IT roles or the programmer roles, I really think that we have to get back to is our just basic connectedness as humanity and being aware of our own strengths and weaknesses, not trying to be heroes, not trying to make villains out of people, but just really us being people who come together for a cause.
Yeah, I think that's pervasive anywhere and everywhere is a lack of connection, a lack of community. And I think we need to find creative ways to solve it. It's interesting because we see a lot of these like return to office mandates, but I don't think they're done in the spirit of that. It's more
No,
about
you're just
control.
making, it's just, again, it's an authority structure that doesn't work. And it doesn't work whether people stay at home or whether they come into the office.
Mhm,
What are you doing to create a connected and high performing team? And
mhm.
so to that end, I have a book coming out next year called Make Great Teams. And it'll be all about, but it starts out with your own lack of understanding of yourself in order to be able to create a connected team.
That's great. I look forward to reading it. I absolutely agree. Self awareness has to be the beginning. And that's, in my book, Creating Belonging, it starts with self,
Right.
and really understanding who we are, all of our identities. So I think that self awareness is huge.
I love that title, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm curious, what makes you unique in the way that you help others?
Well, this is a good question, Justin. I told you in the preamble. I thought that question really made me think for a second. And not too many people were founder of a company, then went and did a very senior executive role, and then went and became a hired gun CEO with working with founders, et cetera. And so, again, working with across that, I'm about change for the company, change for the individual, what's going on with the way in which that company is going to market with its customers, but also what's its employee experience. I can really connect with a woman, Tiffany Bova, who has a employee experience and customer experience. She calls it the experience mindset. But how do those two blend together? Because you could be creating great customer experiences and employees are unhappy because they're overworking, or employees can be really happy and they're not really paying attention to the customers. And so that balance is this connectedness, is this self-awareness, is this ability to really relate to others. And so I think that's the unique perspective I bring.
Yeah, that's great. So you worked across in different ways leading businesses. And I'm curious to hear a little bit more about these in these conversations, scale like a CEO. What I'm really trying to get at is understanding what it takes to scale some companies, to scale teams. And so I'm curious in your experiences as you've looked at scaling teams in these different environments and coming into the business in different ways. What are some of the critical aspects of building and scaling a team?
That's a softball, Justin, because as a CEO, if you can't build a team, you can't succeed. Your success is highly dependent on the team you create. I'll give you a story maybe as an answer. When I came into Rally, it had spent tens of millions of dollars, did not have a lot of revenue traction, had not really solved the product market fit, but it had a team of people who had been working there for some number of years. And when I got there, the first thing that struck you was everybody, it was a hub and spoke management style. Everybody worked through the founder or the CEO, but they didn't really have relationships with each other. But as a result, because they had spent a lot of money, not had a lot of traction, everyone was blaming each other. Everyone was a victim basically of the system. And you're like, for me, I start with the idea of how do you get the right people on the bus, basic idea. And for me, that's number one, are these people who really want to grow a company? Are they willing to tolerate 100% growth? They're in order to be a person who tolerates 100% growth, back to that point before, you got to be a person who wants to grow. And then second, can you relate that with other people so that you can really build a connected team, or do you have to be the hero, if you will? And to really just change the culture, I use personality testing as one way of doing that to get everybody thinking about each other in a different way, and really asking people to grow. And it's amazing how in a few months' time, the people who don't want that leave, which allows you to bring in additional DNA into the team because you only have so much money, et cetera, that are all that way. And pretty soon your culture, in about 6 months' time, and this is in the middle of COVID, when I didn't even meet the people for the first 5 months. You can do this online. I don't believe people need to physically be together. I personally was 14 years remote at Microsoft, and I only had the team in once ever at the company I was at. So I think this can be done. A culture can be done in person, but it can also be done remotely.
So what I'm hearing is part of it is this talent selection piece of making sure you've got the right people that are kind of rowing in the same direction, and then people that are willing to develop themselves, go into self-awareness. I love that. That's one thing that I have for many years when I'm interviewing folks to add to teams. Growth mindset is one of my number one competencies because that's where people get stuck. Is if you don't want to grow and learn, then we're gonna have a hard time working together if we're in growth mode. And for me, the way that I operate is I let people be very autonomous and kind of run with things, but you've got to be willing to learn and grow.
Well, and the only thing I'd add to that, Justin, is it's growth mindset with a connected mindset. It's us together. If it's a me
Mhm.
versus we, you can be a growth oriented person, but it's me against
Mhm.
we. A lot of founders end up in that, for example. It's got to be a
Mhm.
we, it's got to be a we first, me second, growth. Like I'm growing as me, which is affecting the we, and the we is affecting me. And to me, it's that connectedness that then kind of gets the team going in addition to the individuals.
Yeah, I agree with that. You talking about kind of shifting the culture during COVID lockdown and not being in person. I have a great story that I had joined a company, one of my last kind of full-time roles before working for myself was I had joined the organization in August of 2019 and was kind of figuring things out. And then it was time to start building and hiring my team.
Right.
And I hired almost the entire team without ever meeting in person.
Mhm.
And the interesting thing, and this is, I always come back to this when people talk about needing to be in person to build relationships. It was actually one of the strongest teams I've ever worked on. And we still have quote unquote team meetings to this day. where we will get together and just catch up on what's been going on. And we haven't worked together formally as a team for at least 3.5 years.
Well, and that's it, right? You're driving your connections as opposed to your career.
Mhm.
Right? Because honestly, the more senior a leader you are, the more your connections are your career. I mean, the ability
Mhm.
to attract talent and bring people in who really can accomplish things at a high level is the critical factor as a CEO. You're not doing the work. You don't have the time to do the work. So I
Mhm.
love that. I mean, people who do that, I think, are going to succeed over the long term.
I'm curious to hear a little bit more about this culture shift that you made. And you mentioned the personality testing, but I'm curious what other specific interventions did you use to transform the culture?
Great question. So we used personality. The one that I used is Insights Discovery. So
Insights
I
Discovery, sorry to interrupt. Insights Discovery is my favorite. I've been an accredited practitioner for 17 years.
I have been since 2012. So quite a while as well. And the red, yellow, green, blue language gives everyone some language to understand what's and decode a relational situation, and to have a shared engagement. So I really believe that that helps. But then what that does is create a lot of conflict because now I say, you're not taking care of my feelings, or you're not hearing my thoughts, or these kind of things. And just listen with your blue energy, if you will, so that I can be heard. So it usually then requires conflict styles and understanding different conflict styles. And it increases the level of conflict, but not in an unhealthy way. Conflict in a team is healthy to me. And then the last piece of that is, are you going to do hub and spoke management, or are you going to do leadership team management? Is the leadership team leading, or is the leadership team under a leader who's leading? And to me, I really learned that the leadership team is leading, and I play the role of CEO, which is the spokesman to the investors and speak on different things. But I took a lot of the power I had and put it in the leadership team, which then made them have to carry the responsibility of knowing things that maybe in some other companies they don't know. And that to me also, though, expands then the transparency that you can have both with the leadership team and with the larger group, if you can get people who can stomach the responsibility, if you will. And if you don't, again, you don't want those people on your leadership team.
Mhm. I like that you called out conflict as being a good thing. And I've talked about conflicts in so many different ways in teams, but one of the most simple ways that I like to talk about it is there's constructive and destructive conflict. And conflict can be good, and we can make most conflict constructive as long as we have a positive intent in the way that we're handling it. But it's when conflict becomes destructive that just tears apart teams.
Well, interestingly, there's another book and group that I had worked with at Rally that they call it the beauty and pain of conflict. But they would even say you can take the destructive energy and use it as creative energy in the team if you can move through it. If
Mhm.
everyone just separates, obviously what you've done is maybe irreparable damage to the organization. But if the team stays together through it, and it survives the ups and downs of, even if a conflict becomes personal, but to actually stay, hey, someone else on the leadership team says, hey, that was really personal. What else is going on for you? And to keep at it, as an organization, you really can create a deeply connected, high performing team. I believe that, and I've seen it in teams, over the years.
I want to dig a little bit into, it is rare that I've seen, CEO or, a business. I hate saying business side because our talent professionals are in business, right? But like a business leader who has gotten accredited in a tool like Insights Discovery. And I'm curious, going back to 2012, what was the impetus to drive you in that path?
Great question. I actually got a call from Insights because I lead with yellow energy. I'm their thing. And for me, it's yellow, red, green, blue. And they called me and they said, Rich, we're trying to figure out how you're working inside of Microsoft as a senior director because you're the highest ranking yellow energy person in the company. And so every day must just be painful because it's a company full of blue and red energy leaders. I literally started crying, Justin. I started crying. I was like, I felt very seen by that comment. It was very difficult because I lead with a relational energy in a company that doesn't value it, essentially. And so that's what led me to be the practitioner and to, just help everybody become who they were rather than trying to stick everybody in the mold that management was trying to do. Why can't we each be ourselves? And that, again, part of this whole thing that I'm sharing with you on, fully being yourself and leading. You don't need to be someone else.
Mhm. That's so great. I love that they would do that. And it speaks to, I mean, I just loved my relationship with Insights over the years. And so it speaks to how they are genuinely interested in helping people do work better and, become more connected with themselves. That's so great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, Rich, I'm curious, what's next? So I think you've got some plans. What are you up to now?
AI, AI, AI. Everybody, if you're not doing AI every day, you're missing out. And so for me, I'm really working on, okay, what does the next generation systems, really do for us? I think they make us more human. And some people may think they steal our humanity. And, those people tend to live in Silicon Valley and in Seattle. And I like to make fun of those places a little bit because you see people in a coffee shop sitting by themselves drinking coffee with headphones. In Atlanta, where I'm from, no one goes to a coffee shop to sit there by themselves. Generally, they go there because they're going to meet with somebody and they're going to connect. And so I want the culture that I live in to really use this stuff, if you will, to help people connect even more effectively in their organizations, with their communities, and to become even better connected as a result of the use of the technology. And I see some ways you can use it with things like Insights, as well as getting to other people who can help you grow, because technology can't help you grow. It can just give you feedback. And the feedback is really valuable, but you got to use the feedback to get to a person. We'll see. Can you make AI that does that and really makes organizations better and communities better? I think so.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we have to do is just embrace it. It is generative AI is a part of my life, and I use it to help me every single day. I love it.
Well, I think that's the whole world that we're living in now, right? Is that the experts aren't so expert as they made themselves out to be. And there's a lot of ways to leverage that expertise for normal people living normal lives, but who have maybe
Mhm.
been given extraordinary responsibilities. And let's all just be people and let's talk about these things that help make the world a better place.
Yeah, it's so great. Well, Rich, thank you so much for joining me today. If people want to reach out, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Yeah, I think the best way is to go on LinkedIn and message me. So that's at LinkedIn/in/Rich Cannon and message me. I'd be happy to connect with you.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Rich.
Okay, thanks.